All right, and we have 45 people, I think, on the line. It's 2 minutes past, so Matt, or Mike, Mike, do you want to give us a quick intro, and then we'll pass it off to our training representative from Egencia, Jennifer. So Matt, if you want to.
Sure. So, folks, thanks for joining in on the training. The training for this next hour is going to be what's called traveler training. So that's the training for just the the employees. Yeah, it's just for booking regular travel. This is going to be our replacement for Concur Travel, and from what I understand, it's a much more user-friendly system than we have with Concur Travel. So I think everyone's going to be happy with this new change. So Jennifer, if you want to go ahead and start if you're ready, just take us through everything.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So yeah, welcome to Egencia Traveler Essentials. My name is Jennifer, and I'll be leading our little adventure through the Egencia site today. My plan for today is, give me just a second.
Oh, Jennifer, I just
Yes.
want to confirm that this is being recorded for the folks that I'm recording on.
Perfect. Okay, give me just a second. I see that my screen share is not advancing the way I want it to, so I'm going to fix that now. All right. There we go. That's what I was looking for. All right. So my plan for today is to speak very briefly about who Egencia is and how to access our services. And then I'm going to hop onto your site and we'll go through the essential things that you'll need for booking travel. So we'll look at managing your profile, what's really important to have in there, and just the things that will be helpful and will save you time when you're booking. And then we will go through an example travel booking, talking about some of the nuances and tips and tricks along the way. There will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end, but if you would like to ask questions as we go along, that is perfectly fine as well. So as you think of questions, please feel free to ask them as we go along. All right. This is me, just so you can put a face with a name or a voice, as the case may be today. And just a little bit about Egencia, in case you're not familiar with us. We are the corporate arm of the Expedia Group, meaning we're the ones that handle the business travel. And you may have already known that we were part of Expedia, but some people are surprised by how many other brands are part of the Expedia family. And what's really great about that is we can leverage the power of all these brands to bring you great rates and great selection. And booking with us will feel much like booking with other sites that you're already used to using, which will make using Egencia easier. We also try to make it easy by giving you a variety of ways to access your information, so you can work on the computer just like I'm going to do today. But you can also download the mobile app and work on your phone or tablet, even wearable devices. So it makes it really easy when you're on the go and, of course, when you're traveling. Speaking of that mobile app, I definitely recommend that you download the app because you can book your travel there. You can check up on travel that you've already booked, and you can get flight alerts, so you can find out if a gate has changed or if a flight is delayed or where to pick up a checked bag. You can reach out to customer service if you have any questions or issues with any of your trips while you're traveling. Through the Assist Me function, you can always reach out for assistance. Once you've arrived at your destination, you'll have some options for transportation. So you can check out an Uber option versus taking public transportation versus driving. And we also have some mobile-only hotel deals through the app as well, and those also can be worth checking out. So I definitely recommend downloading the app because it's a good add-on to being able to use the site. All right, but that's what we're here to see today, really, is to use the site. So I am going to hop over to your site. And I am logged in as a traveler who can book my own travel. And so I will have the same options and permissions and privileges as those of you who will be booking your own travel will have. This is the home page. So when you first log in, you'll see that you'll be able to get started booking right away. There are a couple of things I want to take a look at before we do start that booking. But once you log in, you'll be able to jump right in and get started. On the right-hand side, there is a message center. And in the message center, we will post alerts that could potentially impact travel for a significant number of travelers. And so it's always worth checking the message center to see if there are any alerts that could affect any trips you have coming up ahead. You'll see there'll be some orange dots next to the messages you haven't read yet. So if I haven't read this one, I can click on it. I'll be able to read the information. Sometimes there's a link to follow for additional information. Once I've read it, the orange dot goes away. So it's not an indicator of one thing being more important. It's just like an inbox read and unread notifications. Your company may occasionally post company-specific messages here as well, and those will appear right here in the message center. So it's always worth checking out this space to see if there's anything that could affect any trips you have coming up ahead. All right, so before we start our booking, there are a few pieces of data that you'll be asked to enter every time you book travel. And if you can get those pieces of information stored in your profile, it'll save you time in the booking process. So the first thing you'll want to do is access your profile and make sure all of your information is filled out. And to get to your profile, you'll be able to click your name in the upper portion of the screen, and that's going to be a link right into the profile area. The first place that we will get to for profile is personal information. And what you want to do here is check to make sure that the spelling of your name here in your profile is exactly the same as it is on the documents that you'll be using for travel. So whether you'll be using your passport or driver's license, whatever government issued photo ID you'll be using, you want to make sure the spelling is the same, because the hotel reservations and flights will all pull your name from here in your profile. And so, of course, things will run much more smoothly if all of that matches the identification you'll be using for travel. The other thing that you'll want to check is to make sure your mobile phone number is entered. I know there isn't an asterisk indicating that it's required, but first you will be asked to provide it every time you book an element of travel. So it'll save you time to just have it in here and not have to enter it in the booking process. Also, if you reach out to customer service for any assistance, if you have your mobile number in here, it'll make it easier for them to connect to your itinerary more quickly, then get started helping you right away. So it'll save you some time later on. All right, in addition to personal information, we'll want to look at travel documents. And here in travel documents, you'll be able to enter a passport if you'll be doing any international travel. For that, we click on Add New, and they'll just ask for your passport number, and then the expiration date for the passport and the country of issue. If you do happen to have more than one passport, once you've entered the first one, you will be able to enter an additional passport. For domestic travel within the US, you'll want to make sure that you get your TSA secure flight information in here. So click on Add New, and just like with the profile, of course, we want to make sure that the spelling of our name is exactly the same as it is on the identification that we'll be using for travel. And then TSA will also ask for your gender and your date of birth, so we'll need to fill that out. And then if you happen to have, a TSA redress number or a known traveler number, like if you use PreCheck or Nexus or Sentry or Global Entry, any of those pre-verification systems, you'll want to enter that known traveler number right here. All right, so those are our required pieces of information: name and mobile number and travel documents. Want to make sure those are in the profile. Some extra things that can be helpful and can save you time in the booking process. Under payment means, we will see under payment means that you have a central billing card or a company card available to pay for air travel. So we'll be able to use that when we book our flights. But then you'll be able to also enter an individually issued card for when you book hotel or car or rail, any of the other travel elements. I'm sure all of you have added credit book cards before. I'm only going to click on it for the first step, because the first thing they'll ask you to do is pick a product before you're able to select your card type. So you want to tell it what we're going to use it for, either hotel, rail, or car. I'll pick hotel, and then we'll enter our card type. Once I've done that, it's going to let me know that, of course, I can use it for the other types of travel as well. A Visa can be used for hotel, rail, car, any of it. But there are certain cards, like Diners Club, that can't be used for certain products like rail. And so they do make us select the product first and then the card type. But I only have to enter it the one time, and I'll be able to use this Visa for any of the products listed here, hotel, rail, or car, that I may purchase on the site. And then if you're going to use more than one card, it can be helpful to enter a card description, just so that it makes it easier to distinguish among them when you go to pay for travel. If you choose not to store it in your profile, you can enter it at the time of booking as well, but it'll definitely save you time to have it here in your profile, and you can just use the card that is already stored. The other piece of information that you'll find here in payment means is any unused ticket information. So if for any reason you book a non-refundable ticket and you can't change it into something that works for you and you end up with an unused ticket credit, you'll be able to find out the amount of the credit, the airline that it's with, and the expiration date. Typically, they're good for about a year. All of that information will be here in the payment means section. It's not that you have to come research it ahead of time. It's listed under payment means because when you purchase a future ticket with the same airline, you'll be able to choose the unused ticket credit as part of your payment options. But if you want to find out the information about the unused tickets, you can always get that here in your profile. All right, loyalty programs. We want to make sure that everybody gets credit for all of their trips toward their frequent traveler accounts. So you are going to want to enter your loyalty program information here in your profile. It's very straightforward. We click on add a card. All of the programs are listed together. So air, hotel, car, all in the same place. You just enter the program that you're a member of, pick your status level, and then enter your membership number. I know it says card number, and a lot of them don't actually issue physical cards, but whatever your account number or membership number is, we just enter it here. And then if you happen to qualify for preferred seating, you can check the box to indicate that as well. Two things that I want to say about loyalty programs. Number one, make sure that the spelling of your name for your loyalty program is the same as the spelling of your name here in your profile section. Sometimes you've been a member of a program for years and maybe you signed up with a nickname or a shortened version of your name, or your name has changed for any reason. Always worth double checking the spelling of your name for the loyalty program when you're entering it here, just to make sure it matches the name in your profile. Because when everything matches, it all runs more smoothly and everything gets lined up. We make sure you get credit for everything. The other thing I want to say about loyalty programs is specific to hotels, and we'll spend a little more time on it when we get to the hotel booking section. But I always like to mention at this point that hotels that have loyalty programs will publish room rates that are eligible for loyalty points, but they will also publish room rates that are not eligible for loyalty points. Not all travelers are collecting loyalty points, so it isn't always important for everyone. But for those travelers who are invested in collecting their loyalty points with hotel programs, we will spend a little extra time in the hotel search portion talking about how to identify rates that are eligible, how to filter for them if it's important to you so that you make sure you're picking the right rates. Because just because you're a member of the Hilton program and you book a room at a Hilton doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get loyalty points if it's a rate that is published that isn't eligible. So we'll spend a little extra time on that. The first step is always making sure that your information is entered here in your profile, and then we'll take a look at that second step when we do get to the hotel portion. I just like to mention it here because I know hotel loyalty points are very important to some travelers. All right, last couple things. Under notifications, we have two tabs. We have the general alerts tab where we can decide if you'd like to receive expiry alerts for things like travel documents or credit cards. You can receive calendar invitations to make it easier to track your travel on your calendar. And then if there's someone else who also would like to track your travel on their calendar, you can add additional recipients here. And additionally, you also can decide if there are extra people you would like to have receive travel purchase confirmation emails and travel receipts. You will automatically receive these. So when you purchase travel, you'll automatically get a confirmation email. But if there's someone else on your team or a manager or an assistant who you would also like to have receive those emails, you can add the email addresses here. The other thing under notifications is flight alerts. And I did mention earlier that you can get flight alerts through the app. I happen to like getting them through the app because I'm going to have my phone in my hand the whole time I'm traveling, and I'll check the app fairly frequently to get updated itinerary information. But if in addition to that, or instead of that, you would like to receive them via email or text, you can sign yourself up here. You also can sign someone else up to receive alerts if that would be helpful. So when I click on Add Contact, you can decide who will receive the alerts, how they would like to receive it, email or text, and then what they would like to be alerted about. Most travelers want all of this information, but there might be someone else who's only interested if your flight is canceled or maybe delayed, but wouldn't care if your gate changed. And so you can make those decisions here. All right, last thing I want to talk about is preferences. Here in the preferences section, we can enter a little bit of information that can make booking a little bit easier and a little bit faster by just having this information stored in your profile. So you can decide the format of emails, how you'd like to receive them. And then you can enter a preferred departure city. So if I always fly out of SeaTac here in Seattle, then I can select that as my preferred departure city. And I know it's just a little thing, but it saves me having to enter it every time I go to book a flight. Yep, flying out of SeaTac, just like I did last time, just like I will next time, right? It's just one step, but you can get right to where am I going for my flight and proceed with the booking process. It's also helpful if anyone will be arranging travel for you, for them to know which airport you prefer to fly out of if you happen to be in an area that has multiple airports and you have a particular preference. It makes it easier. You also can indicate where you prefer to sit on the plane. This doesn't guarantee that you will get that particular seat, and it does not eliminate your option to select the seat yourself. For airlines that offer the opportunity to select your seat at the time of booking, of course you can pick your seats. But if you enter your preference here, that will help in the event that for some reason on that particular day, the seat map just isn't available on that flight. Every once in a while that happens. And then if your preferences are stored in your profile, the system will use your preferences to get you a seat that's as close to what you prefer as is available. If you have any special assistance requests, you can indicate that here as well. If you do have special assistance requests for flights, we definitely recommend, just as it says here, that you follow up with the airline directly, because we would never want an airline to miss an accommodation request, but this can start the conversation. And then if you have a preferred meal on a longer flight, then you can indicate that as well. If you have any special requests for hotel or for car, you can type those in and then they'll carry over to your reservation. So if there's certain things you ask for every time, it'll save you time so that you don't have to enter it each time you make a hotel reservation. Of course, you will have an opportunity to enter a one-time request during the booking process. So if you only need late check-in for that one reservation, you can enter it at the time of booking. But if there are certain things that you always request, then you can type those in here and then save them. All right, are there any questions about the profile section before we move on to booking some travel? Not sure I can see the chat. Oh, yeah, let me go. Oh. All right, I'm not hearing any questions. If there are any questions in the chat that I'm not seeing, please let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Egencia logo. And clicking on the logo will always take me back to the home page. So wherever I am on the site, I can always get back to the starting place, clicking on the logo. And the default is to start by booking a flight. And I typically like to start with flight because it makes it easier to add a hotel and a car. It'll already know where I'm headed and when I'm going to be there. It saves me a little search data entry. And the default also is to book a round trip, but of course you could book a one-way trip or multi-city. If that's the type of trip you need to take, you can book up to 5 legs of your trip all in one fell swoop, which can be convenient. I think we'll just do a nice little round trip today. And let's say that we're gonna head down to the Bay Area. So I'm gonna say something like San Francisco. Now, when I'm flying into an area that has multiple airports, sometimes I'll be given an all airports option, like we'll see here down in Costa Rica, there's an all airports option. With San Francisco, because the other surrounding airports like Oakland aren't actually in San Francisco, I don't get the all airports option. But if I wanted to check those nearby airports, I can click on add nearby and it'll look for other airports in the area to add those so I don't have to do multiple searches. So if I click this, I'll get to see the Oakland results as well as the San Francisco results. And then your company's travel policy is to book at least 7 days in advance, no more than 90 days. We want to try to avoid some of those unused tickets, but we want to book at least 7 days in advance. And so I will definitely stick to that policy and I'll look a couple weeks in advance here. And I'll just go for maybe a couple of days. And then when you're selecting your departure information, you can pick a departure or an arrival time window because the default is any time, but of course that really does mean any time. And you'll see flights that leave at 4 in the morning and leave at 11 o'clock at night. And that might not be the kind of business travel you want to do. So if you do want a morning flight, but you don't want a flight that early, you could pick something like 10 a.m. And what will happen when you select a time is that it will look for flights within a 2-hour window on either side of that. So I'll see all the flights from 8 a.m. to noon, but I won't see any of the flights at 4 a.m. or at 11 p.m. or outside of that 4-hour window, the flights that I don't have any intention of booking anyway. So you can narrow it down here, or you could leave it at any time. And then on the next page, when you get your search results, you'll be able to narrow it down at that point if that's your preference. You have some other filters available here as well, but I usually like to see what all my choices are and then filter it on the next page. So I'm going to go ahead and search for flights. And while it's searching, I will mention that the price that you will see will be the round trip price from the very beginning. A lot of the time when you book online with other sites, you won't see that final price, including airline taxes and service fees, until the very end on the last checkout page. But here we're going to show you that round trip price from the very beginning so you know exactly what you're getting. And you'll also be reminded at the top of what you searched for and given the opportunity to change the search from here rather than having to go over and restart your search. You just click change search and change whichever parameters you'd like to adjust and get your new results. On the left-hand side, it'll tell you how many choices you have and give you some filter options. So I can filter to make sure that I'm only seeing flights that are within company policy. That's a great filter, and I strongly encourage that you use that. I'm not going to turn it on today only because I want to show what out-of-policy flights look like, so we can chat about that a little bit. You also can filter by number of stops, by timing. You'll see that it is limited to that 4-hour window because I specified the 10 a.m. time. If not, I would see from the earliest flight to the latest flight and be able to drag that and adjust it if needed. I can also filter by airlines or airports. Because I chose add nearby, I'm seeing Oakland options as well as San Francisco. And then if I do need to make a connection, I can choose which airports I'm willing to connect through. Those of us who travel fairly frequently typically have at least one airport we like to avoid if at all possible. And so this gives you the opportunity to not select that airport or to look at these and to eliminate any that just don't make sense, that seem really out of the way and would add a lot of time to your trip. All right, at the top, you will have a benchmark pair of flights, these guys here, and those flights will be designated as the low fare option. Low fare option takes into account not only price, but also number of stops and duration to get you the best combination of these three factors. And so that means that the low fare option won't always be absolutely the least expensive flight. If there were a flight that were $20 cheaper, but it added a stop and doubled your travel time, that wouldn't be marked as the low fare option because it isn't the best combination of these three things. We would still show you that flight and you'd be able to select it if it happened to work for you. But with low fare option, we really are looking to maximize these three factors all together. So oftentimes these flights up here will be your best choice, especially if you've selected time parameters. Like you'll notice that the top flight is within the time limit that I set. I said anytime, so my return flight would be a 6 a.m. flight, and I'd have to decide if I want to do that or not. If I had selected a departure time window for both of these, then both of the flights would be within those parameters. So if that happens to work for you and you like it, you can just click select and get right to the checkout page. If you're looking for a fast checkout option, then considering this low fare choice is going to be a really good opportunity to just grab those and move on. But in case those don't happen to work for you and you want to look at your other options, of course, we want to see what the other choices are. So when you scroll down, you'll see that your departure flights are organized by price. You can change the sort, like if you want all the nonstops to come to the top, you can resort by duration just by clicking on the word duration, and it'll reorganize it. That low fare option stays on top because it happens to be the fastest as well as the least expensive option. So that's great. But this is the way to get the nonstops all to come to the top and also to reorganize maybe by departure time or arrival time if that is your preference. If you want to see some additional information about a flight, you can always click on View Details. They'll show you a little bit more information about the flight. That's particularly helpful if you have a connection, so you can see the extra information about the rest of that trip. Also, if it's an airline that allows you to select your seats ahead of time, then you'll be able to check seat availability to see how booked the flight is. Sometimes if I'm deciding between two flights and one is pretty open and one is really packed and there's only middle seats left, that'll make a difference, right? So you'll be able to check that on any airline that allows you to pick your seats ahead of time. The other thing I wanted to notice, some of these are marked with an Egencia preferred rate banner. That just means that we have shared our negotiated rates with you so that you can take advantage of them. Typically, the negotiated rates are going to be a really good option to take a look at. It doesn't mean that you're required to select them, but we always want to look for the preferred rate banner. And then if your company in the future has preferences about which airlines you select, then you would see a green company preferred banner. Aha, here's what I was looking for. So occasionally you will see a little red flag next to a price. Whenever you see a little red flag, that indicates that that particular selection is considered out of policy. And if I hover over the flag, it'll tell me what the issue is with that particular option. And this one's telling me that the flight does not comply with your company's low fare policy. So this pair of flights up at the top here, this benchmark pair of flights that's designated as the low fare option, is used not only to show you the best combination, but also for the benchmark against which we judge other flights to decide if they comply with your company's travel policy. So your company has set a limit for, or a tolerance for, how much more expensive flights can be than the low fare option to still be considered in policy. And as you can see, there are a lot of flights that are still within company policy, but eventually we hit flights that are too much more expensive than that low fare option to still be considered in policy. It doesn't mean that you can't select them. An out of policy flag doesn't block you from making that choice, right? In this case, there are lots of other good options, and there wouldn't really be a compelling reason to pick something out of policy. But the advance purchase policy is one that sometimes we come up against. So the policy is to book at least 7 days in advance. And of course, we want to do that whenever possible. But if there were a situation that came up where you needed to book something that was sooner than that, and you had to book maybe 5 or 6 days out, when you go to do your search, all of the flights will have a little red flag indicating that those choices don't comply with your company's advance purchase policy. But it doesn't mean you can't pick them if that's the trip you need to take. You would be able to select the choice and proceed with your purchase and complete your booking. You would be asked to select a reason why you've chosen something out of policy. And you would select something like, because I needed that date. And then a notification would be sent to the travel manager just to let them know that an out of policy selection had been made. And this allows travel managers to review the travel policies and make sure they're working for all the travelers, as well as keep an eye on what out of policy selections are opted for. So if I click view details on this one, because it has a layover, I will see not only the additional information, I will also get that out of policy information. All right. So if I happen to like the outbound flight, but maybe I'm not so thrilled about the 6 a.m. time, I can select the flight for my departure flight, and then I will get the same set of results and filter options that I saw before for picking my return flight. Right? I can stick with this flight, or maybe the 8:30 flight looks a little bit better. Maybe I'll want to grab that one. So we'll pick our return flight. Once we have our flights selected, then we will be able to review the information about those flights and get a little bit more before we commit to our selection, as well as selecting our seats. So here with this economy fare that I've chosen, if I hover over this, I'll see that unfortunately check bags are not included with this particular economy fare. But I can also get the change information by hovering over the information button. I'll see that this is not a refundable fare. It is changeable with a penalty from the airline, and that is from the airline. That's not an Egencia penalty. So it'll vary from airline to airline. Each airline will have different, different rules and regulations, as well as potentially different pricing for changeability. Now, keep in mind, you do have a 24-hour window after you have booked your flight within which you can cancel without incurring a penalty from the airline. Outside of that first 24 hours, then the flight becomes non-refundable. And I would advocate that if you are within that first 24 hours and you need to make a change, you are typically better off canceling and booking a new flight rather than changing your flight, because some airlines will still charge the change fee even if you're within that 24-hour void window. So if I book this flight now and later this afternoon I realize it's not going to work for me, I'm better off canceling it and picking a new flight than changing, unless I want to go read the rules and restrictions to see whether this is an airline that would charge me the change fee even if I'm within the void window. They're always available here, and they'll be available on the itinerary page for your review before you make those kinds of decisions if you'd like. All right, The other thing that I want to check here is I want to be able to select my seat. And so when I click on select seat, we'll see the preferred seats show up with the stars. If I have status, I can pick one of those. If not, I will want to pick, ooh, yep, I picked a flight. See, I didn't preview my check seat availability. And so if I don't have preferred status, I am going to be stuck with one of these middle seats. So we'll go ahead and grab one way in the back and go ahead and continue. If I don't have status, but I select a preferred seat anyway, the airline's going to catch that when they review my ticket, and they're going to put me in whatever seat happens to be available. And so you will get stuck with these middle seats. Had I previewed the seat availability, I might have selected a flight that had a window seat available if that was my preference. Now I've got my seat selected, and I can go ahead and proceed with my purchase. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And on this review page, we'll see that little bit of time that we invested in our profile payoff, because most of this information will already be filled out for us. If I hadn't filled out my profile, I would have to enter some additional information now. But here I can just verify that my traveler information is all correct. And I will need to enter a reason for my trip. And so I will be able to type that in. That's a free form field. I'm going to say something like training. My employee ID will automatically pull from my profile. It says NA because, of course, I don't have an employee ID with your organization, but that will pull from your profile. And then there are optional fields. The department code will also pull from your profile. I just don't have one. And then you can enter the client name that goes along with the reason for this trip here. All right, there is a need more time to think option. Honestly, I don't typically recommend that you select this, because all you'll get with need more time to think is it will hold your seat on the flight up until just shy of midnight tomorrow, but it won't lock in the fare, because the airlines don't let us hold the price if we don't commit to the booking. So if I were to choose need more time to think, then it's not going to ticket my flight. It's just going to hold my seat, and then I'll have the opportunity to complete my purchase between now and just shy of midnight tomorrow, but the fare could change between now and then. Because I have that 24-hour void window, typically I'm better off just purchasing the flight and then canceling within the 24 hours if I need to. But that option is available if you're worried that you're going to lose your seat and you're not so sure about the flight, you're not sure you're ready to commit. So the option is technically there. All right, because we do have access to that central billing card to pay for this flight, you'll see the central bill comes up automatically here, and I will just leave that selection because that is what we'll want to use to pay for air travel. And then here I have the option to get my travel purchase confirmation email, which of course I will want to receive, and then I would go ahead and click on book now. Because this is your live site, and this is your real central billing card, I don't want to actually book the flight. Sadly, I don't get to go to San Francisco. So I'm going to click on Save for Later. You'll click on Book Now. Either way, we'll end up in the same place. We'll end up on the itinerary page. The only difference will be that once you have booked the flight, of course, the itinerary page is going to tell you that the flight is booked, whereas mine is going to say not booked. And then you will have a confirmation number up here, whereas I have the option to complete the purchase. If you want to just put together a hypothetical itinerary, what could a trip look like, you can always use that Save for Later option, and it allows you to put together in a complete itinerary. I can do my flight, I can do my hotel, my car, and I can have a whole hypothetical itinerary that once I decide to commit to the trip, I can then go and proceed with my bookings. But of course, the price would potentially be able to change between now and then, as well as inventory and availability. So if I waited too long, there may not be seats left on the flight anymore. All right, once I have booked the flight, I will have the opportunity down here to make changes if needed. So had this booking been completed, I would have a cancel button. That cancel button would be available for the first 24 hours in case I needed to cancel. And then there would also be a change or exchange button available if I need to make changes to the flight, like I said, after that first 24 hours. All right, and you can always review the rules and regulations if you want to remind yourself what the policies for this particular flight were. All right. Were there any questions about flight before we move on to hotel? I apologize for being less familiar with your system. I know that there is a way to see the chat, but I don't seem to be seeing the chat. And so if there are questions being typed into chat, I am not currently seeing them.
Jennifer, I have a
Yeah.
question. My name is Karen.
Great.
What is the company's policy and how do we handle it appropriately as far as checked baggage, extra fees, and if you showed the preferred seating based on rewards programs, but if we need to or want to choose one of the seats with a price tag on it, how does that work?
That's a great question. And company policy for reimbursement, your travel manager would have to speak to. I'm not sure what your company policy is for reimbursing those extra add-ons. But in terms of how they work for the site, that isn't something that you can do through the booking here on the site. What would happen once you've booked this flight, so had I completed this booking, the flight would show up in the Egencia app, but it'll also show up in the app for Alaska and on their site as well. And so if I decided I wanted to prepay for a checked bag or I wanted to pay to upgrade my seat, I would be able to do that directly with the airline.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So let's say we want to go ahead and add a hotel to our flight. We can do that at the top of the itinerary page. There's always an add option to add the hotel here. You also can just click on find a hotel in Oakland. When I do that, it'll remember where I'm going and what dates I'm going to be there. It'll remember when I click up here as well. But the advantage to clicking on this one is it saves me having to enter my search parameters and just takes me right to some search results. So I can get a preview right away of what hotels are available in the area that I'm heading to. Now, if you have, so on the left-hand side is a Google map. It operates like any other Google map, so I can click it and drag it around or zoom in or zoom out. If you have a custom location saved in that area, which is super helpful when you're looking for hotels, to have some company addresses already in the system, you'll notice that here we have a yellow pin with a star. When you hover over it, you see, oh, well, that's the San Mateo location. I actually would rather search around the location that I'm going to be there for the, for the purpose of my trip, rather than over here in Oakland, where I happen to be landing for the airport. So what I'm going to do is come up here and change my search. So it's not just looking at, Oakland in general, because I want it to be around the custom location. And the advantage of adding an actual address versus just the general area is that the hotels will be able to tell me exactly how far they are from that location. Right now, when I leave it at Oakland and vicinity, you'll see that these hotels just tell me sort of what area they're in, but they don't give me an exact distance. So as soon as I change my search and I type in the beginning of a company name, we'll see all of the custom locations pop up, and you can select whichever one you're looking for. That way you don't have to remember the address. It's just right there. And if you are finding that there are additional locations that it would be helpful to have saved in the system, just let your travel manager know. We can always add extra locations, and it makes it much easier to find hotels in exactly the area that you are going to be staying in for the purposes of your trip. So here now we'll see it shifted the search closer to where your company location is. And now the hotel listings can tell me exactly how far away they are from the purpose of the trip. All right, now we have quite a few results. We have 50 options. Probably not going to want to look through 50 options. So let's narrow this down a little bit. The way we can narrow our results, we can type in the hotel name if you know exactly where you want to stay. You can use the brands filter up here if you want to stay with hotels associated with a certain rewards program. So if you're a member of Marriott Bonvoy or Hilton Honors, you can select any of these and see hotels associated with those particular rewards programs. You also can use the amenities filters. And honestly, I find the amenities filters to be particularly helpful. And I definitely recommend that you use the amenities filters because amenities often sounds like, does it have a pool or does it have a gym? And those are all things you can filter for. If you scroll down under amenities, of course you can filter for things that make your stay more comfortable. But at the top, we have some things that are going to be specific to company policy and making sure that you get the things included in the rate that are going to be important to you. So a very helpful filter is to filter for in-policy rates, and that way it will eliminate any hotel rates that exceed the company's per diem limit for a particular area. So your company has limits set with for a variety of different cities, and this will make sure that I'm only seeing rates that conform to the company policy. Another one that can be particularly helpful is that eligibility for loyalty points. As I mentioned before, hotels that have loyalty programs will publish rates that are eligible for the points and also rates that are not eligible for the points. Sometimes they'll do a discounted rate, but then you don't get loyalty points for it. So if collecting loyalty points is important to you, you can check the box and then it'll only show you rates that will allow you to collect those points. I'm not going to check the box just because I want to show what it looks like when it's not eligible, so we can see the difference. But I definitely encourage you to use these kinds of filters for things like if you want to know whether breakfast is included in the rate or parking. Right in the Bay Area, parking being included in the rate can be really helpful. Let's see if you were saying in San Francisco, particularly very helpful. Right, free cancellation is another one that is really useful. And I again won't check it because I want to show what the different options look like. But it's nice to have that extra cancellation opportunity if you are unsure at all about your trip. So I'm just going to apply the in-policy rates filter, and it'll narrow down my choice just a little bit. And then we'll be able to see what our options are. All right. So let's say that, let's say I'm a Hilton person. Go ahead and grab this Hilton. Or actually, maybe we want to stay somewhere a little bit closer. We've got Hillsdale, Los Prados. Let's look at see some of the options down here that are a little bit closer. But I definitely want to make sure that we get one that, yeah, I want to get one that has a loyalty program. So I'm going to stick with Hilton for now. All right, when we select a particular property, you start by looking at rates, but if you've never stayed there before and you want to make sure this is a place that's going to work for you, we do have the details and photos option, which will give you the overall property amenities and the TripAdvisor reviews. And that can be really helpful. We try to partner with them to get business reviews whenever possible. Seems to be a little bit of mixed results here. So it could be something that's worth checking out if you're staying in a hotel you've never stayed at before to make sure you feel comfortable with your selection. Once you've decided that this is going to work for you, we'll want to look at the rate information. And there's a couple of things that we want to pay attention to here. So one of the things that you want to pay attention to is the cancellation information. Here, this is saying free cancellation before July 12th. So that's 4 days before our actual trip begins. So we can cancel without any penalty from the hotel at all, complete cancellation before July 12th. And then on the next page, it'll give you the rules about, well, what happens if I cancel after the 12th, but before the 16th. So we'll get additional cancellation information on the checkout page. But here, at least I'm getting a preview that it's cancelable. And I don't think that they are offering any rooms that are not cancelable, but let me just check and see. No, I'm not seeing any rooms that are not cancelable at this hotel. What that would look like would be a red circle with a line through it, and it would say not refundable. It's very clear, not refundable. Beware of the not refundable rates because not refundable means right away. Unlike with airlines, when you have that 24-hour kind of grace period where you could change it after you've booked it for 24 hours, hotels rooms that are not refundable from the moment of booking. So once you select it and you commit to the booking on the next page, that room is booked. So if you think that you want some potential wiggle room, we always want to look for these cancellation options. Another thing that we want to pay attention to is hotel loyalty points. You'll notice that some of the rooms just don't mention them. Any room that does not mention hotel loyalty points is not going to be eligible for loyalty points. It needs to say hotel loyalty points here. So if loyalty points are important to you, then you want to make sure that you're selecting a room that's eligible for loyalty points. In this case, there's not a price difference, but this room happens to be eligible and these rooms do not. So we want to potentially use that filter if hotel loyalty points are important. And then the last thing I want to mention is the payment options. There are two choices. There's pay online and pay at hotel. Now, with the airfare, we have the central billing card available. With hotel, you'll be using your individual card, whether it's a personal card or an individual corporate card, whatever you have available to you. We'll be using that individual card to pay for the hotel. So there are two different potential payment options, pay online and pay at hotel. Pay online means that just like it says, I reserve the room online with my card, and the card I use online to reserve the room is the card that will be charged for the stay. It'll be charged at the beginning of my stay, and Egencia will issue the receipt. Now, you will still be asked to present a card when you get to the hotel for incidentals, like if you order room service or incur any other incidental charges. Those incidental charges would be charged by the hotel, and you would receive your receipt at the end of your stay for just that small part. But the overall stay would be charged to the card you used online, and Egencia will issue the receipt for that. Now, pay at hotel, I still reserve the room online with whatever card I choose, but it's the card that I present to the hotel that will be charged for my stay. It'll be charged at the end of the stay, and the hotel will issue the receipt for the stay as well as any incidentals for like the whole charge. So because you'll be using an individually issued card that you probably have in your possession, the real differences for you between pay online and pay at hotel: pay online charges at the beginning of the stay and you get the receipt through Egencia. Pay at hotel charges at the end of the stay and you get the receipt through the hotel. When you click on the details, there's a refresher for that. Neither of them charges you today, but here at pay at hotel, we pay upon checkout and you get the receipt from the hotel, versus pay online, charged on the day of check-in, and Egencia provides the receipt except those incidentals. All right, so let's say I want to check out the one that's got hotel loyalty points. We'll go ahead and select that one. And then just like with the flight, there's only one checkout page here. We'll get to review the total cost for our stay because this was a multi-night stay, and I was just seeing the per night rate on the initial page. So here I can see the total cost with taxes and fees for the overall stay. If the rate is different between the 2 nights, you'll see the breakdown here, and what we would have seen on the previous page would have been an average of the 2 nights. So if one night it was $300 and one night it was $330, then we still would have seen that $315 on the previous page, or $316 as the case was with the rounding up for the cents. But here we would see the breakdown of those 2 nights. So we'll always show you the average so you get a sense of what the total cost will be on the first page, and then you get the breakdown here. And then any additional information that the hotel has passed on about check-in instructions, we'll get that here. You can get the additional cancellation policy. This one just lets me know that it has to be canceled by this time on this day. And so any time after this would be full charge for the room. That's why this one was called semi-flexible. So you either cancel by that deadline or you pay for the whole stay. Some of the other ones that weren't semi-flexible would have allowed you potentially to cancel after the deadline and maybe only be charged for the first night stay. So they'll always outline all the information for cancellation here. And then if you have any special requests, they would either carry over from your profile or you can enter them now. And then if loyalty points are important to you, I know I've said loyalty many, many times. I promise, unless there are questions, this will be the last time I'll talk about it. But if loyalty points are important to you, make sure that you see the box here that allows you to either enter your loyalty point or loyalty program information now, or make sure that it's carried over from your profile. If you do not see the loyalty and rewards box, then you have selected a room rate that is not eligible for loyalty points. And if they're important to you, you may want to revisit your selection. All right, just like the last time, we will be asked to provide a little bit of information specific to your company for reporting purposes, such as the reason for the trip and the client name. And then if you have entered your card in your profile, you'll be able to select it just like we did with the central billing card, or you can enter it at this point and then choose to save it to your profile or only enter it at the time of booking. You'll get your calendar sync email and your notification email. And then we would click book now. But again, because it's your live site and I'd have to actually enter my card, I'm going to go ahead and save for later. And now we'll have our flight and our hotel. We'll just need to add a rental car to round out our itinerary. Were there any questions about the hotel section before we move on to car? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and find a car in Oakland. And we'll go ahead and add that there. And then it remembers our dates and we can select our pickup and drop off time based on our flight arrival and departure times. And we'll go ahead and search for rental cars. Oh, there was a message that I did not click on. So let me go back one step because I did want to mention the message about rental insurance. And so here there is a message about car rental insurance information. So you will not want to accept the additional car insurance offered for travel within the United States or Canada. If you're renting outside of the US or Canada, then you would want to add the collision insurance. And so there's a good reminder here about what decisions to make around car rental insurance. Okay, let's revisit that and get our results. All right, so when we're looking at the results, if your organization has a negotiated rate with a vendor, we'll list that here, and there'll also be a handshake symbol. We also share our negotiated rates to make sure that you have the best options available to you. A couple things that we want to pay attention to here. One of them is going to be the location, which will indicate whether a shuttle will be involved in the rental car process at all. So in this case, it's saying that it's located at the airport versus needing to take a shuttle, so that can be helpful to check out. The other thing that can be helpful is to use the show image, make, model, and capacity option. So you can get a little more information about the vehicle before you select it. So you'll get an example picture as well as an example model and information about the capacity for that vehicle to help with your decision. Occasionally you will notice that sometimes there are some larger car classes available. Here we're seeing a couple that are out of policy, but for some reason they are being offered at a lower price than the smaller vehicles. And sometimes rental companies just have a particularly large inventory of that kind of car for that particular rental date, so they're offering it at a better rate. Again, we're seeing that out of policy flag because normally we'd want to stick with the in-policy car class. But in a situation such as this, where you see that this would actually be a less expensive option, we would absolutely be able to pick that. And then you'll just be asked to provide a reason why you've chosen something out of policy, in which case you would say, well, the out of policy option was less expensive. And then you'd be able to proceed with your booking. Once you've selected your vehicle, you'll get some additional information about what comes with the car in terms of mileage and a little bit more information about the vehicle. Oftentimes, they will also let you know what the hours of operation are for the rental counter. I see that they're not showing it for this particular choice today, but typically you'll be able to see the hours of operation in case you have a particularly early or late flight, and then you'll be able to get the additional information there. And then we'll see our rental rates and our rules and restrictions that go along with renting vehicles. And we'll be able to continue to check out, or we can save it and add it to our itinerary. I know we've seen checkout a couple times already, so I will just add it to my itinerary. And now we'll have a nice complete itinerary with our flight out, our rental car will pick up at the airport, our hotel will drive it to, and our return flight. You'll notice that here in the upper right-hand corner, there is trip messages with a number on it indicating that we have a trip message to read. That's going to be a reminder of that rental car insurance information. So in case you skipped over it like I did that first time, you will have a reminder here to make sure that that information is read. Just to make sure, oh, my internet connection is unhappy. Okay, well, if you have any issues with your itinerary and you would like to reach out to customer service, there's a contact us option here. And there's always a help button anywhere that you are on the site. But additionally, in certain places where we think it's more likely that you'll have questions, there'll be an additional button called Contact Us. Honestly, it will open the same thing that help will open, which is our contextual help. And so we'll start with some suggestions of questions you might have based on where you are on the site. Because we're on the itinerary page, we get questions about how do I change or cancel a flight, or where do I find visa and passport information, or how do I change or cancel a hotel. If I click on that, I will get the additional information about changing or canceling my flight booking. And just as we had talked about before, we'll use the buttons at the bottom of the flight card. And then if you are having any issues, you're not seeing the things you should be seeing, you can call us or click the Contact Us at the bottom. And that will get you the opportunity to email or to call if you do have any questions. And there's an international number as well as a domestic number. And we have customer service agents available 24/7, 365. So if you're traveling and you ever have an issue, there will always be somebody available to assist you if needed. That's also available through the app with the Assist Me option, so that you'll have the opportunity to use that. If you don't want to break out your computer and you're on your phone, you can use the Assist Me option through the app. and get to a customer service agent as well. If you just have a question about how something works or where to find something on the site, those kinds of questions, there's never a charge for. The only time that we charge for working with a customer service agent is if they complete a transaction for you rather than you completing it yourself online. Of course, we want you to do as much online as possible. That's why we make it so easy to work with the site online. So you can call and ask how to do something online, and they are happy to walk you through it. There isn't a charge for that. There's only ever a charge if they complete a transaction. And we're very open about that. We like to be as transparent as possible, so the agent would let you know if there was something that there would be a charge for, what the charge would be, and then you would have the option to say, yes, let's proceed with that, or no, actually, I can do that myself. And so the help is always available whenever you need it, in the middle of a trip or when you're in the booking process. A couple other things here on the itinerary page. You can email a copy of this itinerary to yourself or to anyone else. You can also make a PDF of the itinerary. You'll see a running list of transactions down the side here with the option to download available receipts. Your flight receipt will be available 24 hours after the flight is ticketed. The hotel receipt, if you chose pay online, will be available 24 to 48 hours after the room is charged to your card. If you chose pay at hotel, then of course the hotel will issue the receipt directly to you. If you would like to see a list of all of your itineraries, you can go up to the trips link here in the top link bar, and that will take you to a list of all of your active, past, and canceled itineraries. And here we'll see the one that I'm working on. It will indicate what elements of travel I'm working on and where I am in the process. If they're booked, they'll be green, and it'll say the word booked. In this case, I can see that I'm working on them, but I have not completed any of the bookings yet. I will be able to access my receipts from here as well. I don't actually have to go into the itinerary page to get the receipts. And then if I do want to get back into the itinerary page, I just click anywhere on this row and it'll take me back to that page. All right, the last thing I wanted to mention as we wrap things up here is the tools menu. So in the tools menu, there are a variety of helpful links that can be useful in answering some questions and providing you some additional information when you're working with our site. The one that I did want to draw your attention to is the top choice called Product Info Site. That's our Egencia Resource Center. So if I click on that, it'll take me to the Resource Center, which has a variety of short videos and guides and tip sheets to supplement what we've talked about today. There's Learn the Basics, which is going to show you some additional information about booking travel for yourself. And then, of course, there's information for travel arrangers and travel managers. And we do also have product update information because we like to keep you apprised of what changes we have coming up ahead and any changes we've made recently. But Learn the Basics can be a great addition. If you have some questions once you get started booking, it'll add on to what we went over today. All right, any last questions?
I have a question. Where
Okay.
do we find the site?
So you'll be receiving
Like, do we get a log?
question. Yep, you'll be receiving a welcome email this afternoon. Those are going to go out this afternoon after we've gone through after I've gone through the rest of the training. And so you'll be receiving a welcome email this afternoon that'll have the information for how to log in. You'll be able to set your password and get right into the site. So look for that later today.
Will it be part of the single sign-on?
I'll take that one, Wendy. Yes, it will, but not until August, and I can explain why offline.
Okay.
One other question.
No worries.
Once we put all our preferences on the web, is I assume there's an app. Is there any limitations on us actually doing our reservations on the app that may not be available via web?
Oh, I got the first part of that. There is an app.
And is there any benefit of
Is
doing
there
it
any
on the web
limitation
version?
to?
Can we just do all of our reservations through the app going forward once we do our preferences?
I apologize. I only got about half of that question. We cut out a little bit. So you can enter all of your preferences here on the site. Also through the app, just to mention, there is a way to access the full site through the app. So when you are using the app, let me just scroll back really quickly. Here, I'm looking at the iOS version, but for Android as well, there's either a more button or a ... menu. When you're on the app, you'll be able to click on the additional options, and accessing the full site will be available through the app. So if there's anything that you are not seeing on the app that you're used to seeing on the site, you can always get to the full site through the app. And our site is very mobile friendly. And so accessing it through your phone will still let you see, you can get into your profile and do all the things you would normally do. The app, of course, is always a slightly lighter version than the full site, I think is what you were getting at with your question. So there may be some things that you don't see in the app that you're used to seeing on the site, but you can just use that additional option to access the full site and still see it all on your phone. So that if you needed to get into some of the things that aren't available through the app, then you would be able to do that still through your mobile device or your tablet or whatever you're working on. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Jennifer, I had a question here.
Yeah.
Is there the option, you may have gone over this, but the option for the traveler to be able to authorize a certain person to book travel on their behalf? Like
That is a great question, and I did not mention that. Travelers are, the way it is currently set up, travelers are not able to designate their own travel arrangers as far as I know, but let me double check. I'm going to hop back into the profile section. And when you're in your profile, there is a section called Arrange and Approve. And in the Arrange and Approve section, you'll be able to see if there is anybody who is set up as your arranger. And it is not currently set up for me to delegate an arranger for myself. So you would want to reach out to your travel manager if you think that there's somebody who should be set up to arrange for you. And when you look at Arrange and Approve under arrangers, you don't see anybody's name, then you would want to reach out to your travel manager and ask that that person be added as an arranger for you. And that can be done.
Okay, yeah, and that would be me, so.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize that. I apologize. So yes, when you have the higher level, when you have the travel manager permissions, then what would show up under here is a manage box, and you'd be able to manage either through the traveler's profile, adding an arranger, or you could go into the arranger's profile, and then there'll be a manage box and you can add travelers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and there is a setting if you would like to make it so that travelers can designate their own arrangers. There is a setting that you as a travel manager can control to make that happen. So that's another option we can talk about offline if that's helpful. All right, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you all very much for joining today. Hopefully you all found this helpful. Look for those welcome emails. And I'd like to say welcome to Egencia, and I wish you all happy and safe travels.
Thank you. All right, people are leaving.
I'm going to stop my screen share for just a moment just so I can log into my arranger profile for the next session and switch up my PowerPoint just a little bit.
So like profiles, they're no longer available, right? Profiles, so like Stephen Ryan's profiles, that was there.
Yeah, like all the travel.
Yeah, so like, they're, you know, I mean, I should have all their frequent flyer info or, you know, everything that we have their profile set up.
Yeah, I don't think it won't automatically transfer
I didn't think
into
so.
Egencia, so that would have to be set up by, Steve, or you would have to put the
Got it.
account numbers into their profile.
I guess what I should have done was print out their profile, just to make sure I capture everything.
You can still go ahead.
I think you can still go in and get the information from
Okay.
her. You just won't be able to book travel.
Yeah.
It's still available. for you.
Okay. Okay. So the other we could have about a preferred car rental. So it was $1.30 is what I saw. Preferred. It's not enterprise and national anymore.
We have the core trust discount with enterprise. I just have to double check, make sure it's all set up. But it's the discount program we had before on the Concur travel system
Oh, okay.
for enterprise. I'm not sure about the other.
I just saw when it said preferred car. And then for approvals, It'll still be set up like for people that require approvals for their travel, it'll still be set up that way.
Yeah. I think though it doesn't require an approval. Does it require an approval?
Because normally, it goes to Steve if it's like Steve or Maureen, within, or outside of